in your packet. And I used dark black pencil. You use your pencil. When I use color, please use a highlighter or a flare pen. Okay, we're going to be solving inequalities. So here we've been doing these, but they are more complex now. Here I have an inequality. When I'm solving inequalities and equations, I want to make sure I simplify each side first. Should be highlighted. Simplify each side. So I'm going to distribute this 3 because I recognize that this 3 needs to be distributed. And I get negative 5x, which is not distributed because he's not touching the parentheses, plus 3x, and a plus 3 times a negative 4 is a negative 12, and on this side is 20. I'm going to first combine my like terms. If I have 3 or more terms, I should be combining like terms. You know, when it's all done, when you're down to 2, you should have no more than 2 terms. And now I could simplify those by getting a negative 2x minus 12. Now everything's simplified. Now I can move things across my inequality symbols. So I'm going to add 12 to both sides, and I get negative 2x is less than 32. I recognize that this 2 is negative, so I'm going to divide by a negative 2. And when I divide that, I'm going to flip that, and I get x is greater than or equal to negative 16. Now I'm going to plot that, and I get negative 16, negative 14, negative 18. That's going to be a closed circle, and it graphs it this way. And I know if you're not sure which side to graph, I know 0 is here. If I replace 0 for that x, I know this is eating the bigger number because that's negative 16. That would be a true statement. So anything to the right of that will work. Another one I have mentioned, when the variable is on the left side, this symbol here will always match that symbol there. So that's another observation I have noticed when I was doing this your age. Interval notation. So I know I go from negative 16 to infinity, and I could include 16, but I could get close to infinity, but never there. On my left, I have a list of things when you're solving and they're much more complex. Make sure you distribute first if you can, and then combine like terms. And all right, so then here we have another inequality. So here's my variable. So I can't simplify any further, so now I can move things left or right. So I'm going to subtract 11 from both sides, and that gives me 2/3 x on one side. My inequality brings down. I get negative 18. So when I have a fractions, I could divide by a fraction, but that's kind of icky. So I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. That will do the same thing. My goal is to make that coefficient a 1. 3 times 2 is 6. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 over 6. So in my mind, I know that's 6 over 6. And so this gives me a 1. And then there's my variable. And on the other side, well, I know this 18 is being divided by 2. So 18 divided by 2 gives me a 9. Negative 9 times 3 is a negative 27. So that is the answer. Now I'm going to graph it. So here's negative 27, negative 25, negative 29. Pick a couple of numbers, one to the right, one to the left of the number of your target number. So I know it's a closed circle also. I recognize that my variable is on the left side, so I could say, hey, yeah, it looks this way, so it's going to go that direction. That's one way of doing that, okay? And my interval notation is from negative 27 to positive infinity again. And it does include negative 27, so that's my bracket. Okay, here I have one that looks really hairy, or what did I say? Lots of junk on either side. So I'm going to remind myself, I'm going to bring down that inequality nice and clean. According to my list, I should distribute first and then combine like terms. So I have a negative 4k, and 2 times negative 3 is negative 6 minus 6k. This does not get distributed because he's not touching that pair of parentheses. Now I have 3 terms on this side, so I know I still could combine, simplify more. So I'll do that in my next step. I'm going to distribute on the right as well. This 5 is not distributed because he's not touching that parentheses, and I get negative 7k plus 7. And again, I have 3 terms on the right side, so I know I'll be able to combine some terms. Those are like terms, so that gives me a 12 minus 7k. And on the left side, I know these are like terms, so I could combine those, and I get negative 10k minus 6. Now everything's simplified. I have 2 terms is the most terms I want before I move things to the left or right. That's how I know it's simplified. I can at most 2. So now I'm going to add 6 to both sides, and I get negative 10k is greater than 18 minus 7k. I guess I should have done my variables first, but I didn't. As long as I do the same thing to both sides, I'm good. And I get 3k negative, and on this side I have 18. Now I recognize that this is negative, new color, negative. So I'm going to divide by that negative. When I do that, it flips. Don't forget, when I multiply or divide by negative, I'm going to flip the sign. And I get k is less than negative 6. So that's my target number. Here's negative 6, and that's an open circle. It could get real close to it, but I could not touch it. And it goes to the left, and my interval notation is from negative infinity to negative 6. I could never reach infinity, and it can't be 6, so that's also a parentheses. Okay. Now, on the next page, you'll see these notes continued. Now, these are special cases. So just like when you were solving equations, we had no solutions and all real numbers. So the same idea with inequalities. But what does that look like? Again, here's my inequality, and I always want to simplify first. So I have 8x plus 12 on this side, and 8x minus 3. I do just like those special cases. These were the same, but I'm going to eliminate those because I need to know a little bit more about this inequality. I need to know, okay, is this a true statement? This is a true statement. Remember, it eats the bigger number if you forget. 12 is the bigger number. This is a true statement, so that means all real numbers are is the answer. So I would write all real numbers. Next item, again, if it's a true statement, it's going to be all real numbers. Let's look at the next one. Again, I'm going to simplify both sides before anything is moved around. So I have a 12x minus 6, and on this side I have 12x minus 1. Again, these are the same, so I know that they will go away. So I'm going to subtract just to confirm. Negative 6 is less than negative 1. This is also a true statement. So that means all real numbers is my solution. And I will write all real numbers. That's my symbol for that. If you want to write the word all real numbers, totally fine. Okay, next item. There is a typo, so would you please make sure that says plus? And I'm going to distribute my 3. I get 3m plus 6. Inequality, I get 3m plus 8. I recognize that these are the same, so I'm going to subtract 3m from both sides. They go away, and I'm left with 6 is greater than 8, which is a false statement. So that means there are no solutions. Okay. My next item, I'm going to remind myself to simplify both sides first, and I get 24n plus 18 after I distribute that 6. I'm going to distribute this 8, and I get 24n plus 5 in my inequality. Now again, I recognize that these are the same, but I'm going to subtract those to see what if this is either a true or a false statement. So I get 18 is greater than 5. And that's a true statement. Why did I have, and confirm, did I do that? Oh, this 8 times 5 is 40. Sorry. You caught it before I recorded. And that's 40. That is a false statement. So again, no solution. Okay, because that is a false statement. 18 is not larger than 40. So I want to make sure that's a 40. Okay. All right.